Okay, the meeting is currently being recorded. Everybody should see the notice at the top of their screens.
Ready?
Whatever you are, I believe, with the chair.
Ready? I call this committee of a whole meeting tonight at 7 p.m. Travis, ready to pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Supervisor Bauman.
Here.
Trustee Dobro. Trustee Kirby. Trustee Lafredo. Trustee Repa. Chair Solano. Vice Chair Haley.
Present.
Member Jersey.
Present.
Member Schultz. Member Francisco.
Present.
Also present is Clerk Larson, by way Supervisor Bob Kula, and our bookkeeper for the town, Anne Marie Anderson.
Do we have any public comments tonight? If not, let's move on to new business. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 1st, 2022 committee of the whole meeting? So moved.
I'll second.
Got that?
Actually,
Any,
I was absent, so I didn't sign.
do we have,
I'll motion.
do we have a second?
Second.
Yeah, you were there, right? Any discussion? Roll call? Or we all approve?
Yeah, Trustee Kirby.
Say,
Trustee Repa.
Yes.
Well, this is a pickle. Supervisor Bauman.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to ask for procedural interpretation from the rest of the board. This is approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes, which means only the committee of the whole, meaning the town board, can vote on this. I have 2 in favor and none opposed, which is not a quorum necessary to approve the minutes. I believe that means, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, that the minutes need to be postponed for approval until the next meeting. I have concurrence from the former clerk, and so we have no quorum on the vote.
and the only reason why that I abstained is because I'm here.
Right, motion fails for lack of quorum.
So be it. Number 2, discussion and possible action related to the finance committee appointments. So now that Adam Solano is stepping down and Barb is going to be no longer part of the committee, we need to recruit some more board members to join our committee. We have a discussion on this.
So let me clarify, Barb, you're not quite interested in being on the board?
So, I'm at my 2-year limit. My 2 years has been completed. And as much as I really think that this particular panel has come a long way, Jeannie, I thought, I kind of said this last time we got together, that I've really enjoyed working with all of you. I think we've accomplished a lot on the budget. We've really been tight on these numbers, and I think you've done a great job. I've been through a couple of administrations. I just think it's an opportunity for another community member to have, jump on board and have the same opportunity that I have had. So.
I appreciate that. Sorry in my absence, I didn't hear that from the last meeting, so.
Sure, no problem.
So we are looking, Crystal, did we do last time, what was his resume?
Yeah, I think Travis had his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Travis.
I was just about to ask Barb real quick, because we are technically approaching the end of the finance committees, the financial year that's coming up. Is it all right with you to ask you to serve for at least another 2 or 3 more months till the end of the financial year, then move forward if you don't want to be serving any longer after that, and then move forward with a new appointment?
So Barb, I think the vice chair was asking if you're willing to stay on board until we're done with this budget process, just to finish out this particular budget and then step down and allow somebody else to take over.
I would be open to that. I think it's fair.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, so then, I would make a motion that we, can I do that, appoint, Barb for the remainder of this fiscal year and the planning for the next fiscal year.
Could we say through May 31st?
May 31st is fine.
Motion by Kirby.
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
I just think that's a good move, just because we're already in the depths of it, and it would be hard to bring somebody up to speed. And I really appreciate Barb taking on these couple extra months of prepare with them.
Maybe we could ask Adam too, just because he's been a part of this, even if he doesn't actually come to the meetings, just kind of oversee the budget and what we're doing. So it's 2 cents in possibility. I like that idea that you had, Travis. And, I'll ask Adam. And that, in the meantime, that'll give us time to start looking for qualified members to join our finance committee instead of just grabbing anybody next month. It'll give us a couple more months to bring them on. It's a really good idea.
If you wanna ask him, that'd be fine, but I think it's actually here. But, obviously ask him see if he wants to. I was under the impression that because of other things he was doing, he either couldn't or didn't want to.
Yeah, I'll double check with him because maybe for a short period, because he didn't want to start a new term, but he might be willing to stay on for a couple more months in the meantime until we find somebody else. In this way, then we would have a clean slate to start the new finance committee going into the new year.
All you can do is ask, if he says no, then we'll plan B.
Yeah, since I already know for Adam's case, he wasn't interested in serving, we kind of made that clear at the last meeting. I think at least allowing Barb to serve out for another 3 more months, that way we can get through this budget process. So that way we can get moving forward.
Right, but I could also ask Adam, because we're not gonna have anybody next month anyway, so it'll at least mean that he could still,
Of course.
yeah, look at the budget, but definitely he's not gonna be staying. But I think it was because his term would have been up going into March, same as Barb's, that's why they made the decision not to move forward.
Yeah, if you wanna ask him that.
Yeah, I'll ask him, and if he says no, that's fine. He doesn't have to be the chair, just still. But we do have to find a chair. Do you have any other questions or any other discussion?
Need a vote on this to extend it for another 90 days if that would work.
Yeah. So, did you make a motion?
Motion by Kirby, second by Repa to extend the appointment of member Barbara Jersey until May 31st of 2022.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Dobro. Trustee Lafredo. Trustee Repa.
Aye.
Trustee Kirby.
All right.
Supervisor Bauman.
Aye.
Chair Solano. Vice Chair Haley.
Aye.
Member Jersey.
All right. I accept. I,
Member Schultz. Member Francisco.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Barb, for serving for the additional 3 months.
Yes, that's gonna be.
thank you for asking me. Thank you.
Number 3, discussion and possible action related to finance committee officers. That's kind of a similar,
That's the chair and the vice chair.
that's the chair. So right now, Travis would become the
Acting vice chair.
acting vice chair until we find more committee members.
I mean, if you're up for it, I would nominate you. Take the position.
Sure. If anyone has any objections, I have no objections to it.
I motion to nominate Travis Haley as chair of the finance committee
For the upcoming year?
for the upcoming year.
So we're doing it for the next, I thought that we're just discussing.
I mean, I would like just to see what other members might come on. I mean, Travis, you are qualified. I'm just curious if there's anybody who has a finance background.
If I may suggest then, how about we say at least until May 31st of this year, so that way we can just keep moving forward for this current financial year. And then, let's say in June or July, we can have that discussion.
I'm good with that.
That's a friendly amendment.
I'm good, I'm definitely good with that. Okay, so what's the motion?
Motion to appoint Travis Haley as chair through May 31st, 2022 by trustee Repa,
A motion that? Or second it?
second by Bowman.
Roll call?
Trustee Dobro. Trustee LaFredo. Trustee Repa.
Aye.
Trustee Kirby.
Aye.
Supervisor Bowman.
Aye.
Chair Solano. Vice Chair Haley.
Present.
Member Jersey.
Aye.
Member Schultz. Member Francisco.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, number 4, discussion and presentation of the 2022-23 annual budget requests. A, town fund presentation. Anne Marie, that would be you.
Give a minute until you get it up there. Thank you.
Do you want to take your mask off or is it easier? Can you hear?
Doesn't really matter. Can you hear me? I guess it's more of a pertinent. Okay, on revenues. So really all I did for revenues, for the property tax revenue, I budgeted for 95% of the budget of the levy. So unless anyone has any questions on that, that's pretty straightforward. The replacement tax, which I've learned a little bit about from the state of Illinois. They've helped me out a little, but they told us that this was a very unusual year. So I put the amount back to 2020 levels. So for 27,000 for replacement tax. And the gentleman agreed that probably made no sense. It was a very unusual year. So I followed his lead and didn't budget anymore. And if we get more, great. Interest in dividend income, just on a conservative note, I budgeted nothing because we've had 4 consecutive months of losses. So on our wealth management account. So I'm just being conservative and budgeting nothing there. And hopefully we'll have some upside. Our rental income, we primarily generate rental income from Lake County Health Department. And in accordance with the lease, they give us a rate increase in the month of May based on CPI index, the increase. Now, the interesting thing is CPI went up in the first time in several years, like 7%. Okay. I didn't budget 7%. I said in accordance with the lease agreement on the historical rates, and they've been roughly 1.4%, anywhere from 1.2 to 1.4. I'm certain Lake County will probably adhere to the lease agreement, but I didn't want to budget just in case they thought that that was too high of an increase, even though that's what the agreement says. So I just budgeted at roughly a 1.4% increase in that number. So again, we have some upsides if they don't say anything about it, and that goes into effect generally in May, and we have to remind them that it goes into effect. So I have the contact person there. Miscellaneous income. This year we generated quite a few of unusual items and once-offs. So of the 55,000 we generated this year, 40 of it related to the FARA program. FARA reimbursed us a portion, roughly 10% of the award if we completed all the assignments and the reporting on a monthly basis. So they provided us with $40,000 of administrative reimbursements. So that's a net number this year. And also, we sold at the auction a number of the pieces of equipment and things that we had from the former regime. So this year, the only thing that I really budgeted for is the lake selling agreement we have with Waste Management, that every year they pay us $5,000. So that's all I budgeted for this year. So that brings us, any question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Can you answer why you only budgeted 95% for the levy?
Historically, we've never budgeted 100%. So, yeah, and to be honest with you, I've been here now since late August of 17. And some years we've collected 105%, like this year we've collected more than our levy. But sometimes it's up, sometimes
Okay,
it's down.
so
So the rationale was, let's be conservative and only budget 95%, because
I
I've seen
appreciate
it.
consistency with all the numbers of the
Yeah, and that, since I've been here the last 2 years, last year we were short slightly, right, Bob? I mean, we didn't come in at
Right.
9.
Last year was the first year we were.
It's that first year for the highway.
For highway.
Yeah, we were short slightly, but, so again, from our perspective, the revenue, any more revenue we collect just increases our accumulation of funds. You don't need the revenue numbers in your budget. But if you do it at a conservative level, you at least know if you are generating additional accumulation of funds or not. Okay? So any other questions on revenue? Okay, going on to personnel services, which primarily makes up all the elected officials, so the salaries officials, all it represents is the rate increase based on the ordinance. So every single, the ordinance was based on the next 4-year term, so that just has it. The reason why it's roughly flat with last year, or the current year, 2022 ending, is because we did some rearrangements this year. We had Bob in there from March 1 to May 14th. We had 50% of his pay. We had the former supervisor who's making more money than the current supervisor. So it all worked out that it's roughly flat. So there's no increase in that line item. And then it also has the trustees going up from $200 a meeting to $220. So I know. But it's all in the numbers. The salaries part-time line item is just budgeting my time, 20 hours a week for 50 weeks roughly. And I've been averaging, over the last 2 pay periods, I've been averaging more than 20 hours. But generally, consistently prior to that, I was averaging about 17 hours a week. So I think I'm just being conservative again, putting the numbers in there because, and we're hoping it settles down, but I've been being asked to do a lot more than I have done in the past. So, I conservatively put it in there. All right, FICA, all the following ones, FICA is just a function of your salaries at 7.65%. So that's just math. The IMRF, the retirement, is based on the new rate this year, 3.71, and it's only based on that of the officials because the part-time salaries do not participate in IMRF. Health insurance is basically an estimate for the current rates that we've been provided, that you saw the presentation on 1 or 2 meetings ago. The new rates and adding 1 additional coverage. So that's all that it has in there this year. And once everyone was supposed to have in all their forms last Wednesday, so hopefully I'll get all the medical forms and that number could be revised between now and before we finalize the budget. Dental and vision and life insurance, those rates have remained unchanged from the prior year, but the only thing that it's added is one additional coverage, and, that's it. Life insurance, same rate as last year, and 3 heads at the monthly rate. Unemployment, we'll see a decline in that number, because our rate went from roughly 4% of the first $12,960 to 0.725. So that's again, a math, and that's just based on, the part-time salaries, because the officials are not subject to unemployment. So any questions on personnel services? Okay. Going down to maintenance services, this year, we think we're gonna spend, right now, we've spent $8,400 on building maintenance. Next year, we budgeted for 10,000, and primarily to cover some outdoor improvements, for hosting events. So to spruce up the outward look, of the building. Maintenance equipment, primarily the major thing that goes in there is, the copier, the leasing of the copier, and miscellaneous expenses. Now, we've only spent this year, to date, about $1,300. But I don't have a copy of that lease agreement, so I don't know if it goes up, annually, so I need to look at that. But as soon as I obtain maybe a copy, maybe that's something Crystal you have, and then we just budgeted additional if there's any other equipment, maintenance on equipment. And that could be somewhat of a double up, because we, if we do buy some new office equipment, we should not have maintenance on existing equipment. But we'll see. So that number could be flexed a little. Grounds and landscaping, and Michelle, since we reviewed this, if there's anything I'm missing that we talked about, please add, that. This year, $2,000, and again, that's just some grounds and landscaping to improve the aesthetics of the building outdoors. So we budgeted to this year, we spent about 1,500 year to date. Any questions on maintenance services? Okay, moving on to professional services. This was some of the harder sections because of the unknowns, but basically the contract and accounting services is primarily includes the audit and our participation in the FSA. So we pay the audit roughly $6,000 a year, and the rest is basically participating. There's a $75 a month fee for members that participate in the flexible spending account, the health insurance plan, and there's an annual renewal of that of $500. If we didn't participate in that flexible FSA plan, we'd still have to spend some money through an independent party. This is what qualifies our health insurance plans to be pre-tax dollars. So you'd have to participate in either base or some company to make it a pre-tax. So even if we got rid of task, we'd still have some residual money there to qualify our plan to be pre-tax. But that's in those two numbers. Legal, I wasn't really certain what to budget. Because the last couple of years, we know that we've had a number of situations that has created the use of our legal services. So all I budgeted at this point is roughly 20 hours a week at, 20 hours a month at $295 an hour.
Now, on just on a side note, Ansel and Blink raised their prices by $25. We just found that out
On the last,
on the last bill.
or the bill that's going to be presented for payment.
So, we are looking at other attorneys right now to see how much they're gonna charge and what the hours are, but that was a surprise to us, and Marie and I both reached out to.
Ansel then.
Yeah, it's kind of like a sign of the times.
Yeah.
And so you did make a request to not have the increase,
Yes.
and they said,
Basically, Carrie Lynn says, because she.
Well, it did come from her, it came from.
Right, but she said this is what she was told by Carrie Lynn, that The attorneys can raise their fees at any time, and because she wasn't really ever appointed legal counsel and she doesn't have a contract, she can do it.
Yeah, there was never a contract.
That's absolutely, I just wanted to be.
Yeah.
Yes, so, we haven't really talked to any of the other, villages to see if they got a rate increase too. So it
No,
must
that I
be,
have not, yeah, that I have not, but I know we're looking into other attorneys where we could always keep them on for what we need them for, and then another attorney for something else. And I know, Crystal and I talked about the, attorney legal fees, I talked to Jeannie a little bit about the legal fees. So it's hard to put a number on it. I know Crystal wanted to go more down to, she was, first she said 14, and I said 25, and she said, okay, we can live with that.
Yeah, I'm not so
And
sure.
she's not so sure about that, so I would like to find, either compromise, or we can move the money around.
Well, this is a budget. This is all that's.
That's all it is.
If it changes, we can always change it, and, you know, if it comes in drastic difference. And there's always the potential of not knowing what litigation is going to happen, and I've been around a little bit, and I understand the waves and the tides for litigation, and quite frankly, budget is always a wave for litigation, so I'm a little bit cautious.
So do you think that 54 sounds right to you?
Well, I think I think at this point, I'm not willing to adjust it. I think we need to look and see. I do think that this is kind of a nail in the coffin, and I wouldn't use that in minutes, but for Ansel Blank, because, yeah, don't put that. But I think that this is just an indication that they, you know, they didn't have, I understand they can, I'm not saying they shouldn't, and I'm not even saying they don't earn it, I'm just saying that for us, it's a problem. Like, for example, you talk about incomes, I checked the incomes for all of the townships in Lake County. There are 3 in Lake County. And the revenues for Lake Villa Township is $1,791,000. Compare that to ours. And the revenues for Cuba, which is the other one in our Lake County, is $1,134,000.
Mhm.
When you
Big
compare
difference.
that to others, you know, you need to be that much more diligent and cautious about how. So a budget is a budget. It's meant to be changed and adjusted based on our rules and regulations. So I think at this point, we can't change it, but I'm open for changes, but I want to be conservative and not drastically reduce it because of what we know is tends to be a more litigated time, which is the time around budgets. So I'm just. a little
and the
cautious.
other difficulty you have is unless, another option would be is to take it out of legal and put it into a contingency budget. You know what I mean? So that we say, so as long as we have the money in there, like we've had to do this past year, take it out. So, that's another way of doing it, not showing it directly as a legal expense and putting legal at a more reasonable rate and putting it as a
Right, and the
contingency.
reason why we did it last year, we took the money out was for different reasons.
Oh, yeah.
And, you
Yeah.
know, it's
Oh,
completely
but since I've been here, every year there's a different rate. So the first year was a wrongful employment. There's been an issue every single year I've been here.
So one thing I think is, I have no problem keeping it at 54. I think it might be easier to just set it a little bit higher if we have the space to do that, because if I'm reading this correctly, we still have, am I right in reading that we have like 100,000 plus that isn't being allocated out of the budget?
No.
Correct. Well, it's,
No.
if we,
So,
Yes, but no.
yes, if we.
Yes on the town side, no overall, because the assessor's pile of money comes out of ours.
this budget.
So if we're plus 100 right now, that means we're really minus 200.
Yes.
Because of the assessors, but
Yes.
it comes out of this. That
Yeah,
would've been
and you
nice.
know what? I should have put the assessor's line down here so you could see that.
I was wondering what.
Because the assessor doesn't
Okay.
generate any income
Yeah,
and it
that
all
comes
gets
out of
paid.
this.
Right.
Okay, that might have been nice to.
I'm sorry, I should have put that on.
Yes, it's
Okay.
correct from the town side. No, it's not correct on the overall pile of levy
Yes.
versus expenditure.
Okay, then yeah, then we do have a slight problem. And I was thinking,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
where's the extra money coming?
Right.
We have a problem.
Okay.
And
Houston.
the bigger issue is we're reducing our reserves well below,
Yeah.
and that's the the main crutch. If you run out of money, you can't operate. So I don't think by putting the 4,000 in legal means the board wants to spend it, or, it's just that
It doesn't mean that we have to, it means that we can.
it
Yeah.
means, yes.
Well, and we can even spend more, I suppose, but we have to follow the guidelines of which we can adjust it.
That's not a
bad situation,
Well, I don't think it will.
Yeah, looking at this, my biggest concern is that there is no contingencies line, and that does violate, DECO recommendation of keeping 5% of your budget in as a contingencies line item. That's something that I would definitely recommend based on the state's guidance that we put back in.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna run into problems because I think,
It's not money we intend to spend, but it's money that's there if we needed to, as a budgetary item.
yeah, the assessor, and I know he's still tweaking some things, but he had a budget of 300,000, over 300,000. And I think the last, he wanted to up it more. But, so we are definitely reducing our accumulation of funds, which is going to be a problem if a true catastrophe happens in the building or whatever. So, okay, moving forward. The next is, so legal, you decide whether you want to keep it in there as the board discusses it further, or put it in a contingency line that we can draw from. The next line is data processing. All I put in there is roughly $600 a month for support. And our managed agreement with our existing IT. I'm not certain, based on the latest email we got, increases are going in. Our current IT company has merged with another company. In addition, Microsoft is increasing their prices, so I have to revisit that number.
This is on our agenda for the Friday night special meeting. That was revised tonight, and we'll have a better discussion on that particular line item
Yes.
at that time.
So that one needs a little bit more review. The liability and general insurance, it's just the current rates from West Insurance. That was presented to you a number of months ago, and workers' comp, again, the same thing. Liability insurance deductible. That's kind of like our contingency line to some degree. The prior year, all we spent in there was the final payment of the wrongful termination, and we met the $25,000. All this $25,000 is if we do have a claim due to employment. Each claim, we pay up to $25,000 on those claims. And then after that, it goes into our third-party insurance. We have no pending claims as I'm aware of right now, but I put in there, I left it at $25,000 if one claim arises. Any questions on professional services? Any further? Okay. Postage and printing and communication. We really didn't do much to increase that. The reason why postage is actually very low this year, last year we had excess money and I think 10 rolls of stamps. I'm still working. I think I still have 5 rolls of stamps left. So I'm assuming we'll go back to annual postage, but we're trying to automate as much as we can. The problem, payments, instead of mailing out checks, automate it. The problem is my time is costly. And if I can't get the software to do it efficiently and I have to manually do it every single time, I might as well mail a postage stamp, cut a check and mail a postage stamp. So I'm trying to make as many tweaks technologically as possible to make
Time productive, I understand.
yes, efficient. So printing, really all we put in that line item is business cards and any miscellaneous printing for the township specific. So really not a whole lot of money in there. Professional development, dues, the first line item, the biggest amount of dues we pay annually is to TOI based on our population. And that's what roughly the $1,300 is. We added a little bit more this year, and in addition, some miscellaneous, and I think, Michelle, you're gonna identify maybe some of the organizations for the
Right.
board review on other organizations that possibly.
I'm just trying to keep myself connected within the community or different organizations and some of them to be a part of it. There's a small fee to join. Different things like that.
So, all right, continuing education, $1,500, and that's really basically for $250, the cost of a training for 6 events. And again, if the trustees are gonna go to some training, we just budgeted some training in there, for purposes of educating the board if needed, you know, so that's all we did there.
Yeah, TUI in November would be the biggest cost if the board wanted to go to training.
I'm assuming this is down in Springfield.
That is.
And, you know, with the pandemic subsiding, and maybe less virtual kinds of training.
Right, they're planning on moving this year to UI, the November training in person, where last year was, you know, like $50 to join, to be part of it.
So that's gonna put a crimp in. And I'm a huge proponent of training. You know, I think the past experience of telling trustees we cannot be trained, we didn't have money to be trained, actually was detrimental to the advancement.
Yeah, basically, we had done very minimal training in the past.
Yeah.
Well, they were denied training.
I don't know that, but,
Anyways,
okay, so, going on, subscriptions, really all that's in there is the newspaper subscriptions. We subscribe to the Daily Herald and the News Sun, and we have a time clock, for punching in and out for the hourly, well, for everyone on the township side. Whether your salary, Candy punches in, Isaac and myself. So that's what's in the subscriptions. Mileage and tolls and per diem are a function of if there is some remote continuing education, we put some costs in there for hotel stay and mileage, to and from, the event. And you can see we really haven't spent that, this year at all. Conferences, those are really Lake County and social service conferences that we put in $1,000. It used to be 3,000, but we haven't spent it in the last couple of years, primarily because of the pandemic. So we threw $1,000 in there to cover some Lake County and social service conferences. And Michelle, I think, I know that you've been going to a lot of them.
Right,
And
yeah.
you've been you must be paying for them on your own
I
because
am.
nothing
Well,
is
well, we
coming.
had that discussion,
Yeah,
so,
so-
yeah, I go to a lot of different events, and I have not been charging the township, for them, but.
But representing Avon Township,
Mhm.
so we threw $1,000 in for those types of conferences. Utilities is basically flat. I didn't do any increases of any magnitude. Now, we said we were gonna give GA some of those costs and I would reduce it here, but I'm very concerned about GA not having enough funds. So I've left it in here and it's in GA, but if we have to pull it from GA because we don't have available cash, we will charge it 100% to township of the utilities, because we said we were gonna start sharing some of the utilities, because basically, half of the building is GA uses, or 2 out of 5, I guess. 2 out of 5 are GA, and I'm semi-GA, not directly, but I process all the paperwork, check to make sure we have all the support, all that. So we, I left the utilities in here. So there appears to be, I have it in both, but I don't intend on, I'll determine if we have adequate funds in GA, cash, available cash, and we'll charge some to them.
Yeah, like one tiny thing is maybe just rearrange like the water and natural gas, because I'm sure gas prices are gonna increase with everything that's going on. But that's tiny.
Yeah, we pay, natural gas, again, we haven't been paying, a ton of money in it. I mean, that's what we paid, $1,358, so, it might go up slightly. But water, we pay a lot less than that, and I put in $100 a month for water. Telephone, Allied and Comcast, and I put in there a 10% increase, because I'm expecting them to increase. They haven't said anything yet, but Comcast usually does every year, and Bob, you're working with Comcast right now, because they increased a great deal.
Yeah, we signed a new contract to.
And how much has it gone up, or did you?
No, we were way down.
Okay, so you were able to renegotiate?
Yeah, we got rid of, instead of using Comcast for a landline, we're using Comcast for a cell line. And so our still is the highway number, but the cost is now $17.
Oh, perfect, okay.
The internet, between the internet and our phone, which is now, we still consider our landline, our highway line, we're paying about $85 a month. Just down from almost 200.
Yeah. And Allied and Comcast, I don't know if there's some redundancy there. Is there something we can do to?
Zero redundancy.
Okay. Because it seems like we pay a lot in telephone and, so I just didn't know if there was any redundancy there. All right, so that's,
Comcast is the data carrier that Allied goes over.
okay,
So we are paying Allied a separate circuit fee just for their phone services and the IP. Basically, the modern version of OPDX.
okay. All right. So that's it for utilities. General services, again, supplies. We upped it slightly. We spent roughly $2,600 year to date. And all that goes into there is supplies for the township and, ink cartridges primarily and things like that of the sort. Operating supplies, same thing. The biggest thing we spent there this year are the nameplates for the new trustees, the signs, the boxes. We did some things to make information easier for people to get. But we budgeted for 1,000 in there. And miscellaneous, the only thing we had in there this year, we do pay a small piece of Lake County taxes on this property. And we had some expenses for the town hall meeting. So we budgeted $150 for the upcoming year. Social service awards. I know, Michelle, you're gonna
Yeah,
talk
I'll
about
take that one. So, on Friday, there's a $3,000 social service agreement for, ATY baseball, which is something that we work closely with. Now, the question is, a lot of, townships do not have a social service fund for agencies that we don't work with. So say the Zebra Mussels next year, if they were to approach us, we would say no, because indirectly, I mean, they help the township, but are we working with them? Do we want to keep the $10,000 to be able to give to other social service agencies? Do we want to, move some of that money to another, part of the budget? We do have, how much was in GA? We still put, how much, was it 12? I forgot how much we put. We still have.
I have it in here. Some of you keep on talking. I have it in here.
So for Fremont, she does not give any social service agreements away because she can't figure out how to say yes to you, but no to another organization. But in our case, we haven't had people really reach out to us saying, we want money from the township. So pretty much just to get your opinion, do we want to keep the 10,000? Do we want to move some of the money to another line? What is your thought? I definitely want to keep it for general assistance, but I think that's part of what we do is we help organizations that we work with.
Yeah, we have a budget of $5,000
So
next
we
year.
wanna-
We spent $7,500 this year on the 3 agencies. United Way, Safe Place, and 211, excuse me, we spent 211, 5,000, and
It comes down to, it's not our money, it's taxpayers' money. What is your feeling, Jeannie, everybody, what is your feeling, Travis, on,
Before we go any further for this next year, currently, we're budgeting 5K in GA and 10K in the town for.
Non-GA related.
but we could change it, we could change that up too.
And then last year, we spent how much in each
We
one?
spent 3,000 in the town for the zebra mussels. We spent in GA, 5,000 to 211 and 2,500 to a state place.
And then on
So
Friday,
7,500 overall.
and the baseball association is asking for 3,000, but that is directly connected
So
to.
10,500 overall.
Yeah.
75 GA and, or 10, 11,000, whatever that number
So
is.
let me give you just a little bit of historical background. And there was a time when the township gave out grants to, and there were lots of people that applied. We met 3 times a year to decide who was going to get those grants. We formed a special committee. And so there has been traditionally grant money they've allocated. Now, we can no longer, under the statute, we've been told we cannot offer grants. They have to be called social contracts. But essentially, it's the same thing as giving other organizations money to do things that are aligned within the oversight of the township. So we couldn't give it to a gambling organization, sorry to pick on your parents, but we couldn't give it to gambling because there's nothing in the township that would allow us to say that this is part of township's responsibility. But, you know, anything to do with helping youth or helping organizations, it seems to me that there was one that we actually gave to the Boy Scout group that lost out in camping. But, so, you know, those are perfectly within our purview. So I don't have any problems with doing the 10,000, but once again, I'm concerned about our revenues.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, so
That's why
I
I'm bringing it
don't
up.
have any problems with putting it in, but it just makes things even more tighter. And we're gonna have to make some hard decisions on how we allocate our funds. When I looked, because I did my homework and I looked at other townships and what kind of services they're offering. Granted, they may get a lot more money than we are, you know, $1 million, it's a lot different from 700,000. So they have more latitude, but I also think that essentially that is the charge of the township. And so I want to keep it as much as we can. So I'm in favor of keeping the $10,000 and how we can.
I agree. I think that, you know, putting 10K in the town fund for social service contracts is a great idea. Quite honestly, if we had more money, I'd like to do more, but
So, I mean, so would I just want to make sure that when we are trying to figure out,
Somewhere to go.
it has some place to go to and what some
I
of the
think
other
this
townships
is a
do.
good number for a jumping off point. And
Okay.
we can, you know, as we go through the budget process, we consolidate with, you know, the assessor in the town and figure out where everything is gonna line up. We can settle on a final number around this range, I think. And I think that 10K should be the bottom. For town.
Yeah, I don't want to make it any more. I just want to make sure that,
I wouldn't want to make it any less.
yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be a.
Can I say something real fast?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't have an opinion on how much allocation put in there. But in the future, could we have like it just helps me just the way I think about things. If I could just see like kind of what we did over like 2 or 3 years, you know, like up to 5 years, not like a lot, but just so like last year we did.
It's kind of complicated the last 4 years. Jeannie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm just saying like going forward, that I think that
Okay.
would help me
Yeah,
understand
we
that.
can do going forward, but quite frankly, over the past administration, there was very little that was done. So,
I understand. Yeah, I understand. This is a totally different. This is a big change that we went through this last year. I understand that.
there were some special funds that we got because of COVID and that gave us a little.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think keeping a ongoing list of grants or, you know, social grants we get or social service contracts we give out is a great idea. I know that the village I work
Yeah.
for, we keep track of, you know, grants that we get from other people, you know, for various projects. And so I think, you know, what we take in from grants and what we put out in social service contracts should be recorded year by year on an ongoing basis. And that's just a good governance thing.
and I can provide that. I know that we've given to the University of Chicago. 211 has always been a big one. I can't remember the third one. There were three. Because the second time they were, remember
The diapers.
oh, the diaper bank, yes. The diaper bank. Those were the three big ones historically that my memory, but I can put a list together.
Yeah, and then like, I know we got the grant for the, generators.
Flood mitigation.
Yeah.
Flood mitigation. So there's the incoming and the outgoing. You know?
Yeah, this year, the grants the flood mitigation came 2 years ago, and we didn't
Oh.
spend it. Because we kept on getting extensions, but this year, what's the other one we got? The Walmart in GA.
Right.
So I'll put a list together. I think that's not a bad thing because it should be kept in the back of our mind so that we can see if those funds are available in the future as well. So,
Plus, I think it's safe to say that any incoming grant fund is gonna fluctuate over the year. Get more, get less,
Right.
depending upon whatever we get
Right.
as well.
Well, and it also depends on the motivation for the application. If, just because the funds are available, and somebody has to actually write it and do the work and to actually prepare.
Right, like Jeannie and I are looking at them right now. It's not, it's not huge, but we hope we get it. And that as more people, if Rudy hears about a grant or Travis does, we need to figure out how to apply for them. It makes a difference.
Okay. Moving forward on capital outlay. This is another one, a couple years ago, a list of all the things that, the wish list of things that needed to be done in this building. The only thing we budgeted for this year is the roof and potentially a pavilion
But
outside.
that would actually go, because of that, the pavilion is actually in two places.
No, well, it's not really in two because this is something with a useful life beyond a year and the other is just things that you do,
Okay.
so.
And I know I just on the board, I don't have the numbers. Well, we did look into a roof earlier this year. I don't remember.
It was 37,000 was the estimate I had, but I never saw bids, because I'm assuming,
We'll have
if
to
we
bid,
wanted to,
yeah.
we have to bid out, competitively bid, so.
But I think it'll at least give us a starting point of how much we want to put in, and then it's within the next, month, we'll get better.
Yeah, so what's in there is 37,000 roughly for, $40,000 and 7,000 for a pavilion, that's what's in that 47,000. And then office equipment, I think, Crystal, you were gonna help that, with, getting some information on confirming that scanners and monitors to upgrade. So,
Correct. I received a preliminary bid today. It is a preliminary bid for ballparking and understanding. We're looking at about $1,200 per workstation. That's for laptops, all labor for installation included as part of that. There's also the option for external monitors where they aren't going to be compatible. Like for the assessor's office, their monitors are just too old. They just won't be compatible. They're dated. Inside the township, those external monitors are current. So we wouldn't necessarily need to add that extra couple $100 per unit. And there's still some room to negotiate on this and work through to find the right piece of equipment, but that's about the opening price.
So how much?
So did the assessor put some of those improvements in his budget?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
yeah, the assessor has $5,000 for laptop replacement.
Yep. New
This
pieces.
number would put him a little over 6,000 if he did all five. And because his monitors are so old, most of those would not be compatible with newer hardware, so it's just an age thing.
Well,
I'm having.
yeah.
Okay, so
We're not like fine wine in IT.
Well, we've always been like behind.
we did upgrade, I think this, about 3 years ago, I think we upgraded, because I know I got a new PC. Yours is relatively new.
Yeah.
Yours probably not so much.
No, they didn't.
Mine's up here now.
Oh, okay. Yours, Candy was a new one. I think the things from a technological standpoint to make our jobs more efficient is scanners, printers, things that you can do easily from your computer instead of getting up, making copies,
Right.
So I think there's some room at a very low cost, a relatively low cost to be able to improve some efficiencies. So, Okay, so, looking at this budget, we have a budget of $536,000, and then you tack on roughly 300,000 at the assessors, so that's 800, and roughly $38,000, on a incoming money of roughly 671. So,
A little bit of problem.
again, I didn't put the cash balances like I did G&A, because G&A, we will run out, if we spend all that money. We will. Here, we'll probably bring our reserves down to nothing. We probably have a year, beyond. So it,
Which was quite frankly ahead of the prediction that was made by
Yeah, it was
Crystal.
like 3 years.
What are
Yeah,
the reserves right now, just for reference?
I didn't bring that information. I used to do that every month and I do it for myself, but, I used to put it in the board package every month. But we're less than 1% for township. So, that means we have less than $500,000. Do you have the asset listing with the any chance? I didn't bring that in here of cash.
Bear with me a second.
Yeah.
I can't rotate the page.
And we'll get, I was told, I got an email from, Lake County, we'll get another small, I'm supposed to get it this week, property tax distribution, won't let you go in, this week. But our next.
So I'll let you all rotate this yourselves in your heads a little bit.
No life insurance.
What you'll see at the town side, our total cash reserves are 509,000, the GA side 146,000. Road and Bridge 294, and Permanent Hard Road is 914.
And these numbers have to last us through, because we don't start getting our bulk of property tax distributions again until May. Okay? That's
Huge.
That's the big one. So we have, March, April, and half of May, because we don't get it until after, at the end of May. So we have 2.5 months that we have to have funds for.
And that's the problem of calling it reserves. There's a misconception that somehow it's extra,
No, I call it accumulation of funds. I don't like calling it reserves.
because it is, it's money we have to use while we're waiting for taxes.
Yes. So, yeah, sorry, I didn't bring that in, and I have a relationship to levy, but I know township is well below 1%.
And you just need more money.
Does anybody have any other questions with Anne Marie?
I have a question. So Anne Marie, I just want to make sure that when you say salaries, that's the hourly rates for all employees and the salaries for any employees that are correct?
Okay, salaries officials is just all the elected officials and the trustees, so there's nobody else in there.
So these are just the elected officials.
Correct,
So, and salaries for part-time,
it's just me.
just you, that's what I thought. So
Yes.
where are the salaries for the other, for?
They're in GA. So Isaac
Oh, that's
and
right.
Candy are GA,
That's right, that's right.
okay?
Which,
Because they're primarily working, they've been
They're working,
redirected,
yeah.
are basically working on, as caseworkers.
yes, and that's not my question. That's not my concern. I understand they're GA, they're legitimately out of GA, they can be paid out of GA. But as you said, the GA money is dwindling, and I think we need to make sure that we pay attention.
I haven't been here, when I know, and Crystal, you probably were involved then, that they had to send everybody home for a number of months, or like weeks, because they ran out of money. So they had to close the doors. That's what I was told.
No, that's-
Yeah, we can go with that narrative if you'd like. We can go with the other narrative, which was, there was litigation between the assessor's office and the township that resulted in a conflict regarding the future budget that
Oh,
And
okay,
caused the assessor to make that decision.
Yes.
got it.
Yes.
I was
Had nothing
told
to
that
do
we
with
ran out of money and they had to close down the office.
They all got paid, even though the office was closed, they all got paid. How does not having the office open mean anything?
Okay, then let's go there another time, because,
All right,
Anything else? If not,
I'm sorry, Bob, the look on your face was priceless.
I don't have a look at the last time.
Oh, no, I read it.
it's Bob, Bob.
I'm gonna executive asking, soon.
I know. Bob, would you like to start?
Are you guys done?
Any other, yeah,
Roll. Sure. I guess, road and bridge.
There we go, Bob, it's up on the screen too for you.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
That's too far.
That way, everybody who's remote can see this as well.
Sure. Road and bridge. Everything's pretty much standard. The replacement tax I have up to 3350. Number I have from you, Marie.
what one?
Replacement tax, 401.
Yes, yes.
Yep, okay. Interest income is usually the same, both around there, and miscellaneous income. Going down to,
So why is miscellaneous income, just, can I ask a question, or I probably not allowed to answer? What was the 55,000 we had this year? Year to date, we have 55,568.
That's for the sale of the two trucks.
Got it. I couldn't remember what it was when I put this together.
Sure.
Got it, thank you.
Problem.
Sorry, Emery's looking at actuals year to date
Actual
versus the
over
budget that's being presented on the screen that was provided by.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we don't have the actual.
No, I'm sorry, I did this real quick when I came in.
Yeah, that was too up.
Yeah.
Maintenance for the building, I've actually brought that down to 10,000. I previously had it in there for a roof, but I don't intend it. Whether it's more for us to get you care of. 10,000 is just for standard maintenance. I think we can replace doors this year and service doors, so we have that to deal with. Maintenance on equipment, I could actually drop down 10,000 to 35,000 because we have two newer trucks now. And I have two that need to be replaced very badly. So do that, maintenance is going to be down. I don't expect it to even be there, but I still have to have the money in case we have something catastrophic happening to one of the trucks that it breaks. But mosquito spraying, went down to 7,500. I think we only use like
3,000.
yeah, 3,060 this year. Other dry year, that was a drought, so we'll see what happens next year. I usually share that with, by the way, with township.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Last year I budgeted for, I think around 3,500, and then the finance committee last year changed it all to the highway department.
Actually, there was a discussion on that, and it was decided, and you actually agreed.
So I don't-
Yeah, so it
I
went,
don't- That's maybe it. Anyway. It sounds like it's something I can absorb. A little bit easier for you guys.
Well, it was kind of controversial because there are a lot of people that objected to it, thought the mosquito spraying was really important.
It is, it's
Yeah.
important, but I think historically, I think
it was 50, last year was this current year is the first year we did not split it.
correct.
Right. 18.
Is it a highway department function? That's debatable.
Yeah, the argument was, what was told to me was that you manage it,
Yeah.
you manage it,
We didn't.
or when to come, when not to come, if to stop.
I do, but I do
The
that.
bigger argument is, I think that the highway department does this in the sewers and stuff as well, or in the drainage areas
Yeah,
with pellet applications, so mosquito abatement naturally falls into that environmental type
I
area.
suppose, but other, in other townships, or the township itself case, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. I do want to make one comment on mosquito spring. Last year was the last year of Lake County. Works are gonna be finally besides tablets. So
What are they gonna, not gonna do?
the larvicide tablets, they grant, I don't know how the conditions that they gotta get. I don't know how many knows, but they were passing them out. A limited supply for each.
Are we gonna have to buy those?
Yes,
How much are they gonna cost?
$1,000 a box. Takes us about a box and a half.
And you figured that out.
Yes. So
Is that part of that 515 line?
that is part of the 515 line.
Well,
I
Anne Marie, could you make?
I
a
mean,
note?
if you want to change it, you could change it to mosquito abatement.
It's exactly the note I was gonna ask for.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
I'll
think that
change
makes
the name.
sense to-
Mosquito abatement.
Legal services, I can just put 3,500 in there again. I have no idea, I don't really. Historically, I've never really used legal, and it's very, very limited.
I think that's wise because I think there's more and more objections of being made when anything goes out to bid and that we see more and more, and we had a little touch of it, but it didn't really go very far, but, yeah, I think it's wise to keep it.
Yeah, I keep it in there. I mean, again, I don't think, what did I use last year? I used.
450.
450, right, so.
It gives you the freedom if you have a question.
Yeah, I want to be,
You know, you need some
I need
freedom.
the ability to be able to make a call, sure.
You deserve it, Bob.
Yeah. General liability is going up about 1,900, that's per Anne Marie, that's the number we got. Contingencies is just the same, 1,000. Drug and alcohol testing is gonna go down. I mean, I left it at 500 because we still have to do a drug or alcohol test if there's an accident. Moving on, postage, publishing, and printing are just rubber stamp numbers. They don't change. They 550, 400, and 250 respectively. You never use any, never.
No, you only spend in those categories $317 all year.
Yeah, we just don't use that much. And the same as with professional development. We have some dues of the IPW man, that one we use, that will be one of the dues that we pay for. Continuing ed, we do use that. Most of, all our continuing ed is online. Most of it I can find for free. At no cost or very low cost. Per diem and lodging, put 250 in there, and conferences and conventions, but quite honestly, I never personally used it. In 8 years, as a highway commissioner. We don't travel. You can find it online. It's easier for us to find, I think, to find what we need online than it is for you guys. But, so we just go at it and we take that approach.
I think you've only done one traveling once to go downstate to get the new truck.
Yeah, and that was just a turn around and come right back. Yeah, just use the Amtrak and pick up the truck and go back, so. What other than that, yeah, staying over, yeah. Is that office supplies? Again, that's printing, same number. You get printing cartridges, just paper, stuff like that. Operating supplies pretty much stays the same. I think we're pretty close right now.
$4,825.
Yeah, very close. We budget about 5,000. That's just normal supplies we need for day-to-day operating. Miscellaneous is just the line that we use, and we can't honestly plug something into a line, and we don't want to put it there, put it somewhere else just to put it there. So sometimes it just falls into miscellaneous. Replacement tax disbursement, and we're half that number of that 401 number up above in the revenue, so that's 15,200.
So why is that up?
Pardon me?
Why is that up?
Because the revenue's up.
Because the
Oh,
revenue is
because
up.
of revenue.
Share, they.
So the more we get, the more the villages get.
Yep, now I get it.
Building and capital outlay. Building, I have 20,000 in there, and that would be, I don't know, if we absolutely have to put, a new roof, do you call that building maintenance, or do you call that?
No, when it has a longer than a 1 year life, it goes into this
Yeah,
category.
so
Actually, it's based on the capital policy of the township, which is a $10,000 capitalization requirement.
So there you go.
So if the cost of the project is $10,000 or more, it's automatically capitalized.
Okay,
Well,
Very good.
and the auditors say, put it in here. I mean, it doesn't matter on our financials, they put it all as one, but they do depreciate, large items.
and then building equipment, again, is for replacement of lights, things of that nature. I think, last year we put a new compressor, in the shop. We did a new generator, so that stuff's good. And so I don't foresee any other large expenses as far as that's concerned. The big one would be the 540, 583. That's vehicles. There are two, did you guys, those are two state bid costs for a Ford F-250 pickup and a Ford 350. It would, we put a utility box on, or a service body. The service body truck, which is the 2004, has, the firewall between the cab and the engine compartment is rusted out. That's not good. And then the pickup, that's very bad. The frame on on this pickup bed is actually broke last week. So we've done some modifications to hold it out, but those two trucks are desperately needed replacement.
Bad shape.
Bad shape. And if you look at their age, you know, to have a salt truck last for 18 years, I guess that's something about our maintenance and how much.
I'm sorry, how long again?
18 for a salt truck.
That's pretty.
And, you know, it's used as a utility truck in the summer, but both those trucks go out and salt in the winter. So, and then the other one's 15. So, they've lived their life.
I have a question about
Please.
your office equipment.
Uh-huh.
I've been in your office and have had the pleasure of doing a Zoom meeting at your office. And I'm just concerned that, are you considering your need for technology?
Yeah, I'm actually using my Mac right now. I
Oh,
have a MacBook Air. I don't even use my laptop for work anymore because it's so old. I have a MacBook Air that I use. So I did put 2,000 in there, so if I do replace, I'm just gonna get another MacBook Air for the township. They're about $890 through a government pricing,
Mhm.
because they do offer that, about $100 off. Same with, for educators. Max, Apple gives a good discount on that, so. And then I have enough in there actually to replace Suzanne's if need be.
Suzanne's what?
Suzanne's laptop as well. We have the same exact laptop right now. Mine's kind of done, but hers is still hanging in there, so. Yeah, we don't have a lot of technology.
Does she have a MacBook also, or are you looking for?
Yeah, no, she's not an Apple person.
Okay.
She's not an Apple person. She's, she likes her.
Is that MacBook Pro, is that your personal device?
I don't have a Pro, I just have an Air. I just find it easier to use. Anyway,
I just have to say, Bob, I'm always, every budget year, I'm always just so amazed at how hard you work to, on your budget. And the sacrifices that you continually make to address what you desperately need and what you think you can do without and to postpone. And once again, even though there's a huge truck increase, we're looking at a decrease in the total R&D over the last year. And I just.
And Bob called me about his computers too, you know, even though he said, you know, I know it's not on his own, he still
I still like to mention it.
you know, just to say, this is what I'm thinking about doing and things like that. He's always, even when I was a trustee, thinking about the bottom line, the best that he can for the township. Thank you.
I'm going to recommend that you get your own MacBook through the township, not your personal device moving forward. Just there's a records and liability issue
Yeah.
with that, with using a personal device. One of the reasons I'm going to not be using mine moving forward as well. It's not that I need it for my personal use. It's a separation of your
I
work
understand.
from personal.
Yeah.
So that's certainly a concern. And if Suzanne's going to replace her laptop, then we would want to probably include her in the whole process that we're looking at here with the assessor's office in the town.
Well,
To have similar equipment.
And also, we
The-
need-
I don't know what, it would depend on how much her equipment would cost. You know, you were talking about $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I can get, you know, if I can go out and get Suzanne a laptop, because it's gonna be a laptop.
If you can get her a laptop, but it's not going to be supported by IT staff, then that's not a good laptop and that's not going to have a cost savings to us in the long term.
We've had our laptops for 8 years with no IT support except for me and her, so.
Mm-hmm.
We won't talk about security risks and all the rest of it that are involved. We'll save that for an offline meeting.
But that's fine. I'm just telling you.
Preferably where there's no cameras recording.
Yeah, we've done, I think we've done it all for ourselves.
All I can say about the budget is, you know, obviously Bob's worked hard on it, and for vehicles, I mean, those vehicles definitely need replacement, and seeing what, you know, possibly needs to be done in the future in terms of the building and other costs down the road, you know, and seeing that maybe these trucks that are old, you know, this is a seller's market right now for vehicles. So, you know, we could probably get a better rate now than if we were to try and sell them later. So I think overall, getting the vehicles now would probably make more sense, you know, not only saving in, you know, repair costs, but,
And I will tell you on that note, Rudy, that, and the rest of you, that the trucks are on a very limited basis right now. The truck, the dealer that we got, the last truck we got just recently. That's the same, they have a state bid as well again. They have it for, it's usually a couple, 2 or 3 year contract, but, they have trucks ordered, and when they come in, it's first come, first served. And, you know, if hopefully one of those trucks meet our criteria, we do have to make a move very soon.
Kind of like we did last time.
So as soon as the board, you know, I think we have to wait until the budget is approved, is that right? Until, and a new budget starts, and then get approval from the board to buy the trucks as well, is that correct?
So in April, when we have our town hall meeting, will we be adding, we could add the trucks to.
So you can't do that without a town hall meeting, or?
That would
Oh,
be-
we can buy it without the
We
meeting.
can buy it,
We
but
can't
we
sell
can't
without
sell
a meeting.
them. So what I'm saying is I would like to make, you know, put them on the market, kind of like we did last time, you know, we bought them and then we put them on the market.
Yeah,
Just so we have
I'm
it
not
on the agenda, or we could do it in the next board meeting.
You're concerned about timing of purchase.
I am, I'm more concerned with, getting the okay to place the order more than I am with the resale of the old ones, because quite honestly, I don't expect those old ones to generate the same amount of type of money that the other two did. The pickup is, you know, is what it is.
What is your timeline for the purchase?
Again, as soon as I get board approval to purchase them, then I can make another call to the dealer and I
Is
think
you
it's still available.
So
10,000.
March 8th, we could, it's a March 8th, our next board meeting.
Well,
I'm having hard trouble understanding with it. Do you want approval? Are you worried
Well,
about
I
them
mean-
not getting the approval till because we have to wait until the new budget is in place? Or because we've told you that if there's an emergency that comes up, and I think this would have the feelings of an emergency because of the lack of merchandise, that you would have to make a reaction quickly. And so that is, I think that's as close to an emergency as you could get out of the vehicle.
So on Friday.
No argument, but what we're talking about, you know, we're not talking about, you know, $10,000 or $20,000 here, we're talking about, I think we're gonna budget 110, so it's not something that I take lightly, and,
Right.
and I definitely want to make sure that we're following the correct protocol, and if that means waiting until the 2022 budget is approved, and the fiscal year officially starting, and then maybe at that same meeting, if the board said, just because I have the budget approved for 110 doesn't mean I can go ahead and anymore. Previously, as a highway commissioner, that's a different story, but now, you know, okay, the budget's approved for 110 in that line, but I still think I need approval from the board to go ahead and make that final purchase for those trucks. So I just want to make sure I follow the right steps, and everybody, you know what I mean?
Is there a possibility that if there is something out there that you could do it by February 28th, because you have $110,000 left in your budget?
Well, here, I'm gonna make this really simple, right? You have a total capital outlay from this year of 123.5 across all of the funds. And this is the important key, is that it's 123. 46,000 over the course of 2 meetings could be moved as 10% transfers if absolutely necessary. But the total amount exceeds the 110 asked. Under continuing resolution, if the money is expected to be there, the money could theoretically be spent under the auspices of the current budget. So there is a workaround without the budget being passed if the understanding is the board is going to pass that budget. So that it doesn't sit there going out until the end of April, beginning of May, where inventory or stock isn't available. So the board is not hamstrung on this. There are ways to make this happen. I know it sounds like it's creative accounting, which it is to some extent, but it is within the auspices of the law, municipal budget law, which is the important part of that.
And I think as far as your understanding of permission from the board, we have said that we understand that if the emergency comes up, if you get a notice tomorrow that says we have a truck, that you could email us and we could respond to you individually. And we have actually put that in as part of the criteria. So I think you need to depend on that. If something drastically changes, that you just notify the board members that this is what happened, and this is available, and ask for a yea or a nay, and we can vote on it at the next meeting.
As much as I want to agree with that, and with all due respect, I feel like it's a little bit of a gray area that we're delving into here. When we talked about that emergency thing, I think we were, the truck that's, our trucks that are falling apart, something that needs to be addressed quickly, yes. The shortage of trucks, is that a problem? Yeah, it is. If we didn't get, if we don't get that next round that comes in at this price that we're offered, that that's offered right now, the next round, the next order for 22s are done, it would be 23s. And the price, of course, is going to go up. So that does add to that, the whole thing. And then you could argue, well, the potential here is for maybe paying another $23,000 because the price of trucks is going to go, and it is. Let's be honest. I mean, everything's going up so much, but it still feels a little right. I mean, I'm going to follow the direction of the board, but
So why don't we, if that's the case where we want to use what you were saying in terms of budgeting, right? Creative budgeting. And if you're looking for permission from the board, we could do a special board meeting in and out quick,
On the 28th.
that way we can.
This Friday.
But that's what I was saying, this Friday,
Yeah.
if we could.
Yeah, I'd run on the 25th already scheduled.
I mean, I'm on the 25th, that's right, I'm on the 25th
If we
too.
can do it on the 25th, we can do it on the 25th. If we can do it legally by then, I'm fine with that.
If I could.
Enough time.
There's a whole process. Let me go through that process with Michelle and Bob first. Then we'll disseminate all of the information. It can't all be done in a single meeting.
Okay,
So we're gonna need at least another
We have
meeting.
a 10% restriction on fund transfers within a single budget. And the total deficiency is, $40,000.
and then our next board
So
meeting is.
we can't do that because the total budget is 241.
Right, but
We have to do this all in separate meetings in order for this to happen for fund transfers within side.
but couldn't we pay down a deposit to hold the price? So you don't need 40 or, we're talking about one.
We're talking about something that's a little bit more involved in our fiscal year ends on the 28th, and we're talking about money from next year.
you're
So
putting
it's-
down a deposit, but it's not the money that the concern, it's the approval of it. The approval of it, if I go and give down a deposit, that's saying we are going to buy that truck. And without board approval, that doesn't feel right to me. That's,
Real quick question here. I know I'm a little bit of a new person in here. But if we just did a simple deposit, just an IOU kind of deposit for them to hold on to this, then within 2 to 3 weeks, pay whatever is left in that bill or a separate board meeting, could that work?
I don't think that would be a problem, but I guess what I'm saying is,
That looked like
without-
only for you.
I'm looking for formal board approval to buy those purchase those trucks.
And I think we can do
I
that.
think you can do that on the 25th.
Yeah, we can do that.
And if for some reason we can't do that formal approval on the 25th, we can schedule it for the 25th.
Didn't you do that last time? You asked for our permission, and then when that truck came, you
Yeah, I mean,
you had it?
This whole transfer thing is really gonna be moved anyway, because, you would, if I get the board, if you can give me board approval to buy those trucks, they're not gonna be coming in anyway until midsummer. It's gonna be June, July, August, sometime around there, or even September before they come in. So they're gonna be paid for out of the next budget. It's still, but it's still, you're approving something for me to buy for the next budget before that next budget even starts. So that's my concern.
Right, but the law,
No, Bob's concern is valid.
but the law allows you to put down payments on things if you have the funds in the current year. So I'm confused.
We don't have the funds in a line item in the current year to be able to make that down payment. That's the first issue, because this would be coming out of vehicle, not building. So we do need to do a transfer in this fiscal year, in this process, to be able to move the deposit. That would be the first part. Under continuing resolutions, we still only have $69,000 that are available under the vehicle fund in the next year's budget for us to authorize against. And the board cannot authorize the expenditure of funds that hasn't already been previously allocated. So that's the second concern, which is why there's fund transfers that need to take place, even if you split the money across 2 fiscal years, which is totally legal to do that.
But if I.
But it's a matter of making sure that the money's in the CRs to be able to do that down the road.
If I hear Bob correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, because I have this wrong, that even though we may have to make this decision in the current fiscal year, we wouldn't have to pay for it until the next fiscal.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, quite honestly, those trucks, that order that's placed is not, there's not an expected, those aren't expected to arrive until.
So all we have to assure, if I get that right, is that we have the down payment in the current fiscal year available for him, and then the rest available for him in the appropriate fund.
I can't answer that. I don't want to answer.
No, we just need to ensure to Bob that we will be authorizing that appropriation in the future. It's not even about the money being transferred in the current year or the next year. In order for us to do that and guarantee the appropriation is available in advance of the budget, we have to do the fund transfer process within the road and bridge budget to allocate the funds for the next year under CR.
I think if Crystal.
It's a math issue.
If Crystal can make it work, I'm fine with it.
Um,
And then we can schedule that and vote on that later, but
As long
let's
as it's
move
legal.
on with. the
No
next
problem.
item.
And just so you know, there's no down payment necessary. It's just a purpose order that has to be.
Gotcha.
That's why it becomes legal.
So we would have a meeting on the 25th. We would have a follow-up meeting on the 28th. In order for us to do this legally, it has to be done in 2 separate meetings on 2 separate dates. And on the 28th, we can also give Bob the authorization to do that.
So the two things we have to do, I'm having a little bit of trouble.
So on the 25th, we would authorize a fund transfer of 10% of the budget from building to vehicle in the current fiscal year, which is approximately $24,000. On the 28th, we would do the second one of those, which would allocate another $20,000, whatever gets us to that 110 number for vehicles for in this calendar year. So what that means is that under continuing resolution, which is Illinois municipal budget law, our budget continues for 3 months until we approve the budget. That money is now allocated as $110,000 from the prior year's budget in the new year.
Okay, and it's the continuing aspect of it that I didn't understand. So
Right.
now I understand it.
So we just have to allocate the money as if it was there and that it's available.
So I
Okay.
understand.
That sounds easy.
All right, very good.
I know, it seems like it's really confusing, but it's,
I got it, I got it.
It's the 3 months of the continuing, I get it.
Right.
All right,
Yes.
so-
I'm sorry to.
Can I ask one question?
So I have a question too.
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, so what you're saying is we have the $69,000 in this year's budget. And if we do the transference of funds of 24,000 and then a second one of 20,000, we've met the $110,000 that Bob needs. Is that correct?
that's correct.
So $113,000 would be kind of like what he's set at if we do the transfers.
But we already spent 67 this year.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct. So we've spent the money. It's a question of what's allocated at the end of the year on the budget as to whether it persists into the next fiscal year. We aren't spending the money this year. We're spending it next year. But the appropriation is already there under continuing resolutions, under the continuance of the
Okay,
budget.
so
for the 3 months. So it allows the board to authorize the full spend of the 110 because the money was previously allocated and continues into the next budget year.
Until the next budget year. I got
So
it.
it's sort of mute is what you're saying, that we've spent the 67,000.
No, I'm going to look at it as a badge of honor. We're saying that we believe in this so much that we already have the funds available. The fact that we have a budget year ending and a budget year starting is not the issue. We're allocating the funds under the current issue, and we're proving that by having them available. The fact it's gonna come out of next year is neither here nor there. It's just making sure that we have enough money to say he can move on it this year before the budget. That's all I care.
Well, I understand that. I was just wondering how the specifics worked under the transfers. So,
Right, so we transfer the money, and what that does is on paper, from the budgeting standpoint, says that the budget for vehicles for this fiscal year was $113,000, even though we're not
Yeah.
spending all of it.
exactly.
So,
Okay. I wanted to
As
make
we
sure.
go into the next year, before this new budget is approved, we get to operate under the idea that $113,000 is continued authorized for the next fiscal year. That allows the board to make the decision to spend that money, where the board right now would be hamstrung at 69,000 as a max spend.
Right, I gotcha. So should we be changing that number from 110 to 113 right now, at some point? Or do we have to match those numbers up?
Gotta do it in 2 meetings because the 10%.
Well, no, for the next year, 110 is what Bob is saying. We'll equal whatever that number is. I just threw estimates out there, ballpark of what that total amount would be.
Okay, that's fine. And I was worried that the $200 that he had in operating supplies wouldn't last him through May. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. He works on such a shoestring budget on everything. And I totally echo with what Jeannie says, that it seems like he prioritizes what his biggest need is, and then he cuts everything else. You know what I'm saying? I have no problem meeting whatever his needs are. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Barb.
All right, let's move on to the next question.
Can I just ask one question again, and you might have answered it before for me? So your general road fund levy is 89.6, but you only budget for roughly half of it on 40?
Yes,
And why is that again? I just can't get that in my head.
because the other part of it goes into the replacement. It's always been that way, Anne Marie. Whatever I budget, I get half.
Okay,
It's
So
always
the replacement tax was part of the 1970 Illinois Constitution.
been
okay.
that way since.
When the local property tax laws were changed in 1970, so that personal property was no longer taxable, the replacement tax was the substitute to deal with that problem where local municipalities no longer received revenues from personal property. So there's the townships receive the replacement tax, and the townships disperse that to the local municipalities within their borders.
Just an agreement.
Okay,
Ready to move on?
moving on.
Good.
You have to deal with it.
All right, revenue is, I always put the property tax the same. I think it's gonna be the same this year, my feeling with the, but I left it at 869. It was 868 and change before,
Yeah.
interest income, I brought that down a little bit, to be more realistic. And then we have some other miscellaneous incomes that we sometimes get. The miscellaneous grants, we got the IPR, that Illinois Public Works Fund grant that we get every year. And that's the number I'm told we're gonna be getting. So I plugged that in there. Contractual work for villages. I budget 25,000, that fluctuates depending on the, winter. The work that we do for the villages through Lake and Grays Lake, and then any, road maintenance that we do for the Third Lake. Salaries, salary official line, I have it check marked through that. I think that can go away at some point.
It will go away once there's no budget and no spending.
Okay.
We get a budget, so.
The salary for the employees, there's some changes there. I have, previously was 300, I have that down to 290 now. That reflects me going into employee full-time line, which is the 502. That reflects Suzanne going from full-time to part-time. And it reflects some COLA raises for the guys. and Suzanne as well. I'll put some notations in there in your packets.
So you said the COLA raise? What'd you
Cost of
figure-
living.
Well,
I know what a COLA raise is, what'd you figure that?
Well, I gave, that's actually, they're actually under because, the last raise they got was in February of 19, is that right?
February 4th.
Yeah, so we did not get a raise in 20, they didn't get a raise in 21. And if we add up COLA for those 2 years, it's significantly more than,
4%, you put 4%.
yeah, I'm asking for 4% for,
So you use the COLA of 4%, and it's partly to reduce to, for the lack of raises since 2000.
yes.
That
yeah.
makes perfectly sense.
And then I actually asked for 6% for Rick, for one of the other employees. One of the other employees, because he's well under what the others are, well under what he's. And that still would not put him up as much as the others, but it would be fair to give him more. And the same with Suzanne, 4%, I did not include a raise for myself. I have, MRF. Just, those are just numbers, like Anne Marie said, those were just plugged in, I just got to clear those out. Health insurance,
I'm sorry, I hate to go back, but how, when you have part-time figure, how many part-time?
just one.
Just one.
And then, if I have to hire somebody, for whatever reason, if somebody gets sick or.
So does that include, I know that's, like,
Pardon me?
like, does that include like if it's snow plowing, if you can't do it, you have to hire somebody to take over the snow?
Yeah, I have enough money there.
Okay.
Like I say, is what it is, and IMRF. Health insurance, that's calculated right out, actually, I believe to the penny, based on the rates that we got recently. It actually, that's as it stands right now, I will probably be losing one dependent in the near future. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Empty nester?
Putting his degree to work.
Empty nester officially?
No,
No.
but he'll be putting his degree to work, so he's, accept the position when he starts, so. So anyway, here he's doing some research for them, that's for me. Dental insurance and life insurance, right around the same again. I over budgeted the prior year because we didn't have a number. This year, the 5,000 and 650 respectively was probably more in line with where we're gonna be, even including the 10%, I think that when we talked about the 10 or 8 increase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, life insurance and dentist.
Unemployment's gone way down, so you'll see a big significant drop there. 2,500.
Because our rates went down, we had no claims
I mean,
over the last 2 years.
a lot.
We went from 4.something% to 0.7, the lowest rate that,
So automotive fuel and oil, I left it the same. I know gas will probably be going up, but I think I only used about
12,000.
12,000, thank you. So even though I think we're gonna be in some rough times here in the next couple of months, it's gonna be reflected. I still think we're gonna, 20,000 is gonna be just fine. Road salt and de-icing, is it right around the same? And I'm probably gonna, I might end up even being under that because right now as it stands, we're sitting pretty good on salt and we have more to take. So we're fine on that. That number's gonna be just fine and that will reflect salt plus liquid.
Yeah, I imagine your usage is way below.
It's kind of down right now, yeah, it hasn't been bad. We're right on with liquid because we have these, ice events. Liquid goes down for those.
Well, we used half your budget in the month of February so far, in the first release of February, half your spending is in February.
Right.
Yeah.
And it typically is.
Yeah.
Rentals and uniforms, rentals, sometimes we have to rent equipment that we don't have. It's not too often, but the money's there in case we use it. in case we need it, but typically we don't use it that much. Uniform just for standard stuff, work boots, sweatshirts, and t-shirts. Workman's comp, going up a little bit, you'll see the number reflected there. That's just for, I think I got the number from Amy as well. Contingencies in permanent hardware is a much bigger number than it is in road and bridge, because road and bridge, or permanent hardware has the potential for, the line items have potential for a lot more need. Maybe emergency tree work if we have any tornado come through, you know, things like that, or just flooding. We had flooding some years back in Bacon Road, they lost a culvert, they closed the road for, I don't know, a few months. So the potential's there, typically we don't use it. Tree maintenance is about the same as it is every year. Although it wasn't as much
You're only spending.
last year. We had some money left because we've kind of got a grip on the Emerald Core trees. Engineering, you know, we have engineering this year. We're doing some paving using our MFT taxes, MFT funds, and the RBI funds, which are the Rebuild Illinois funds that we're getting. So to use those funds, we have to go through the county to do the paving. So, you know, instead of paying Goal for engineering, we pay the county. That's just how it works. So that number reflects that, plus any other engineering needs that we might have. Briefly, one of those might be, you know, I'm looking at a grant for Nippersink Road that I'm really, that I've been talking to Rudy about the whole thing, you know, the resurfacing, curb and gutter, the sidewalk, the bike path. It's one of those big ones that uses some federal funds that go to the state, and then the state disperses them. It'd be 5 years away.
Whatever happened to that one grant we did a couple?
It's still there. The Rebuild Illinois, the big one, is still out there. And then there's the DCO grant that's still out there.
Is that the one that you applied for?
Yeah, there's a couple we've applied for, just they haven't come to fruition yet. The first round actually went out, I think, for the DCEO one, but we're on for the second round. Whether we get approved or not, I don't know, but that one I'm still waiting on.
Okay.
For Nippersink improvement, that's west of the driveway for the school district,
Yeah, from that, I think it's called School Street,
School Street, yes.
all the way in. Ultimately, the best case scenario, it would be all the way to High Point where the power lines are, and then around Lake portion pick up from there.
Yep.
And then we would have this whole, what would be attached to the lane before, and everybody would have a way to get from the schools to Valley Lakes and so forth and so on. So that's a big, that's like I said, about a 5 years away from something like that happening, but it's a
I
good
know
time
that
to
really well.
it's a good time to talk about it, because even at 80/20 split, which is what it is, it's still, you know, a significant amount of money that would need to be put away. But that's a discussion for another day. What does that leave us? MS4, same deal. That's just something we have to do. We use Goal for that. Then the utilities. Those are all pretty flat as well. The garbage has gone down a little bit too. Since we went to Lakes, we had still using Droop for a little bit there. Now we're strictly Lakes and get better rates. The telephone, that's what I was talking to you about before, the 554 line. We're going from 2,200 in the budget to 1,000. And that's going to be very close because, like I say, we're just in that 80 something range times 12 months. So there you go. They have a nice program, by the way, for getting rid of a landline and getting the Comcast cell line. No internet, who cares? But it's just a way to have your landline phone number without the cost, because you know you don't need the Comcast modem. You're not renting their modem anymore. I don't have a Comcast modem for internet either. I do just purchase their own. So we're not renting any equipment. We're not paying any rent on anything. Modems, strictly what we have, our own stuff. Then the telephone in the field also went down significantly because we got the Comcast. Suzanne had a phone for Case. And as a secretary, she had a phone, she needed it to answer that phone. But now that Comcast has that cell line, it's also the shop. We just canceled that number. We don't have it, we're down to one phone, I have my cell phone, and that's it. And so the price went way down as well. Pace line is gonna be, streetlights. I had them at 28,000, and I still, this supposedly, this LED thing is supposed to happen this year at Comcast, so when that happens, we're gonna see, we will see, I think, a significant reduction, but until that happens, I think actually, they're up there, up in the sky, then I'm gonna leave the budget at the same. Pace is gonna be 0.
Do you ever see a time when we'll be bringing back dates?
When what?
Do you ever see a time when we'll bring back dates?
Geez, I don't know.
No, I mean, especially pace.
We just didn't have the demand.
Yeah, I understand why we dropped it. I don't have any problems with why we dropped it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there were extenuating circumstances, so I think.
There were, but even pre-COVID, the numbers were going down. Is it a good service for the township to offer? Maybe, maybe something for here. But, it takes a couple people to do. It's not a one-person job because you have to have somebody who's an administrator, and then you have to have 2 drivers minimum, even though that second driver may never go on the road. So Suzanne kind of did it all.
Yeah.
But it takes a couple bodies to do it. Then you have to get into a drug program. There's, it's involved.
It is.
But I think transportation around here is adequate without, but again, maybe that's a discussion you guys can have. I don't have the room for the bus anymore. But again, maybe you guys feel differently, and that'd be great. I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
I think this would be a really good discussion to bring in Linda Soto, former mayor of Haynesville.
Right.
She's part of she's part of that PACE group.
Yeah.
Understanding that the paratransit program changes this year.
Yeah.
And we have the Round Lake area dial-a-ride, where you can call in or make your reservation via the internet today in advance for anywhere within the area. Is this a service that the township needs to subsidize moving forward? Maybe not, but that would be a better discussion for somebody with PACE to have.
Well, his answer was enough for me, but there's the public transportation in this area has been bleak at best. And all of the systems that we currently have problems. And like, for instance, dial-a-ride, you can do a dial-a-ride, but if somebody elderly or there's a priority, then they can't do it, and then they cancel. And there's lots of contingencies, and it has been an ongoing issue. And I'm not saying Bob's right. It doesn't need to be in Bob's end of the world. It could be in the township's end of the world, but there is drastic issues that we have continually had public forums on in this area for as long as I can remember. And it is a situation, not that,
So-
I don't object to why we got rid of it. I understood it, the number
No.
was obvious, it was perfectly legitimate. But I think in this area, we still do have an incredible need, and I have talked to Melissa about it.
I mean, for the seniors, you should consider the possibility of just subsidizing, rides from West.
What we have right now,
Right, that's another option.
I'm not raising my hand right now. But,
Not that we're not listening to you.
but we do, in part of our program right now in the office, we do have $10, the $10 cards.
Yeah.
That if people do need rides and are, in the township and they can't afford it, we do have a system for them for public transportation. I've met with Linda many times. I think it's something for discussion, but right now keep discussing it. But let's see how the new program is in May too.
Yeah.
And see how, because they're putting a lot of money and effort into that new public transit system.
Yeah.
So it's not off the table, but I think we should,
Keep it up. Right, I get, the only other issue there is that you consider making it smaller business. Look, and,
Huber.
Over, thank you. Look it over, don't, that would not be.
Yeah.
All of this discussion. Anyway, moving on. This way is just another line permit that we have a road bridge for something that just doesn't fall into the right line. And then, projects, so I have a budget of 325 this year. There's 325 there, and then I have money in, for fuel tax, county polls. I have money, rebuild the Illinois fund, we're getting, money in as well. But it doesn't pay it all, but it's a significant amount of money just the same. So MFT right now, as of the end of the year, end of December, our MFT balance is just under 24,000, and we average about 500 a month. The Illinois, the rebuild Illinois funds are holding right now at 31,683, and we should be getting a couple more allotments sometime in spring, which total about another 18,000. So there's a decent amount of money there for the road projects that we have planned ahead. I gave you that in packet there for the road projects here. I think that's it. Yes.
Motor fuel tax, do we receive those monies and those are paid directly by the state?
They go to the county.
County,
The county holds up that money, but it's not reflected in the budget.
and they pay that directly.
They pay that directly, it never touches our hands.
Okay, so that does not need to be in our budget. Got it. Be clear.
Rebuild all my money on these things. Or straight to a county.
County administers that through their budgeting process. Got it.
So we can use that, I mean, there's other things we can use it for, we're not a stranglehold using for, for paving, we can also use salt, which we can actually have in the past as well. So there's a few different things. But it does help offset some of the costs of money. So, anyway.
Well, I just want to say thank you again for this, taking your time here to show us this budget. It's a very efficient budget here. I'm looking forward to getting these 18-year-old trucks off the streets for you so we can get some at least newer vehicles for you to pave the roads there and salt the roads as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
For the capital projects, we're looking at doing the roads off of Fairfield, in the northern part of the township.
Yeah, so we have, not right here, Poplar and Hickory, which are off of Fairfield. A portion of Forest, which is off of Fairfield Road to west to where we left off in the neighborhood. And then Cedar, which runs north-south off of Forest and it connects to Lakeshore Drive. And then the last one would be on the south side of the township over at Town Line Road. And that would start at Fairfield Road and head west to the dead end. Doesn't serve many homes. I had this discussion earlier before. We talked about the budget early on, but there's not many homes on that west side. But believe me when I tell you that the road is, it's exceeded its service life. It's time to do it now before it comes to a point where we have to pulverize it and start over again. And it's more expensive, so we can still catch it right now. So now's the time to do it.
And then, just long-term planning, what are you looking at in terms of the next couple of years?
Well, the big one we talked about, I think, again, that's one of those, that we need to talk about with Round Lake. And even if Round Lake doesn't get involved, it's not a deal breaker because what's important is getting this, a sidewalk and indoor bike path starting at Fairfield Road and getting it west and getting that connected to the trail So these, there's sort of different ways to get to school. The next portion of that, of course, I think would be probably Hart Road. Hart Road has the same issue, it's a narrow road. And it needs the same thing, would be a bike and or walk path connect to Fairfield Road, and then somehow they gotta make their way over to Nipperson. So those are the big ones. Nipperson is not gonna happen without it. Not in the township, no. It's just, Nipperson, I think, is probably in today's money, just the curb and gutter. If you're doing it, you're gonna do a walk path and a bike path, just how it's gonna be. But you're talking about, probably at least a couple $1 million, at least today's money. Now, we're talking about 5 years down the road, who knows? So it's a big job. And then there's also a bridge there. It doesn't look like a bridge, but it's considered, just because of the size of the culvert, for Squaw Creek. That place there.
Manatee Creek.
Excuse me.
Yay.
Then read
Thank
it.
you.
That's right.
I apologize for that. I've been calling it that since I was a kid, and it's hard to, I
Yeah.
don't have it that hard. I apologize. But anyway, that bridge.
We'll avoid the censure resolution.
Right on. Let's do that.
Okay,
So that culvert, if you're gonna do it, that culvert hasn't been, and it's a big culvert, it's funny, I can walk through. Any one of us can walk through, so if that's time to deal with that as well, the engineering along for that is gonna be, it's an expensive project, it needs to be done now. So that is the long term, the very long term, that's something we need to look at. I have other roads that need to be paved, we just, I can give you a list, for the next few months, try to see, getting sure what needs to be done next. But to make this happen, to make Nipperson happen, even at an 80-20 split and engineering, I think the township's gonna have to think about being able to accumulate. I'd be, maybe $400,000 or $500,000 needs to be put away. Honestly, I think that's very conservative. It's
That's
doable.
2 to 3 years, maybe?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years, when you start with this federal grant, it's called,
2 to 3 years of at least putting money away.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
And then, yeah.
It's an STP fund, it's called, it's a Surface Transportation Projects. So the feds allocate them under the states in Europe. They see fit, it's on a point system. How does it affect, how many people does it affect? What are the benefits, that whole thing. If you have a sponsor, you have another agency get involved with it, your points go up. And so, but it typically, historically, from day one, when you get involved with this and start, it's about 5 years. If it happens from day one to you actually see funds.
Then you're saying $500 million would be accumulated on our side in total.
I think that would be a great number to think about.
And how far west on the first thing?
Well, I think it would go all the way to Wilson Road. Wilson Road, the intersection's already done,
Yeah.
so that's a
So
bonus.
not taken.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think you could probably go all the way to the entrances of Valley Lakes roughly.
right.
Yeah.
Because
Somewhere around there.
from there on to the intersection is,
Yeah, those, the bike paths, they got repaved.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got forest preserves, there's no way to get there.
There's so many public, bodies that would be affected, that would be a plus for everybody, getting to the library, getting to the Round Lake
Yep.
Park District.
Yep.
Getting to the schools.
Yeah, and also, they've got the frisbee golf, there's no way to get there by bike or by.
The list goes on.
Yeah.
Really, I think it's scored high, but again, it's gonna require some planning. And the other question that, is that you have to allocate, if you're gonna start saving this money, how do you put it away without these people coming and saying,
Yeah,
hey,
that's,
you're over your, you're
Accumulation
holding
of
more than you could, if it's allocated for something, if it's in the
Has to be
future, is
flexible.
that
Has to be
changing?
allocated.
And that's on us creating a capital fund for
That's
a
right.
specific project, and
For
putting it away.
specific-
Right, that's
for
what we
them.
talked about
And then they
before.
can't touch it, it has to be.
Right, so, you know, the first thing I'm working with Rudy with right now is getting a sponsor, and the sponsor, you know, obviously would be Round Lake, but it's not even a commitment from them for money at this point, because this is just the initial, they were interested in the grant stage. It's just, you know, Round Lake, you know, maybe even just an email saying, these, you know, we're really behind the township, it's a great thing would benefit A, B, C, D, E, and.
But, I know it's getting late, but where are we with the Hayesville project?
Kingsville Road,
Mm-hmm.
you mean the county's project?
Yeah,
Oh, they're still,
when are we gonna put money aside for that too?
we have to pay our percentage for the sidewalk,
Okay,
yeah. I think that's still a few years out, right? That's 24?
I think it's close to when this administration's over, but just because if we have to have money for that too, I just want to make sure we have that allocated.
Yeah, that, we did get some sort of, I don't remember what that preliminary number is, I think I'll have to look back at that and see, and then maybe we can revisit that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we know where our,
Yeah, well, that makes sense, yeah. It wasn't a big number, but it was definitely something we,
it's still a number that we have to save for.
absolutely. You said we.
Well, all of them.
The royal we.
That's right, we don't use we use
Sorry.
I.
And I
Well,
would think the
anyway.
word us.
Any more questions, please? Anybody?
Wheeler,
Sorry, I think this is a little bit long. All right, that's all. I
okay, if not, we have any more public comment? Members' remarks?
I
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion that.
second.
All in favor?
Oh,
Aye.
wait,
Good.
I don't know if we should have done this before we, well, technically we haven't voted yet, or I haven't voted yet. But we need to make sure that we schedule a meeting now that we've been presented with all of the budgets for all of the different areas, that we schedule a board meeting to discuss it. And if the finance committee is going to schedule a meeting to discuss it and make recommendations to the board, then we need to make sure we coordinate that we have the finance committee meet and make recommendations to the board, and then the board has to meet to discuss their recommendations, the recommendations of the highway department, the assessor's office, the town, the GA, so we will talk about it all together as a unit and make a decision. So I will leave that up to the clerk to pick those dates that are appropriate and meets the deadline for a budget discussion and budget approval.
Thanks.
No problem.
My recommendation for our initial blush at this would be on March 8th, immediately preceding the regular town board meeting of the 8th. For a 6 o'clock to 6:45 meeting, that would be our normal finance committee schedule. And then the finance committee can determine if additional meetings are required after that. And we'll try and accelerate that timeline as best as possible.
So March 8th, 6:45 for a finance committee?
March 8th, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, so I got 6 o'clock for a finance committee?
Yep,
And then, you got, then we'll, yeah.
I
okay.
believe it's March 8th. I'll confirm that.
It was on the,
It is.
it's on your calendar, I believe, it's March
Yeah, I
8th.
believe it's
Perfect.
March too.
I believe, but I didn't know the.
Yes.
March 8th. And when do we have to have the, this was asked of me, but when do we have to have the drop dead date that we have to approve the budget?
March, or May 31st,
That's
which is
what I
the
thought.
date that we extended the appointments for.
Yeah, that's the way I thought it was.
It's 3 months from the date of expiration.
Just go.
Yeah, we, I'm sorry.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 See, you did all in favor.
Hearing no objections, we are adjourned at 9:03 PM.
Yes, I am proud.
Bye, y'all.
Good night.
Everybody, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Don't we have to do it? All if we're on Zoom too?
Not for this one.
Okay.